Hi, welcome back to the All Scale Slot Car Den. I'm Dennis. As you know, I'm primarily a slot car channel. Occasionally, I'll veer off into some other little direction away from slot cars, but generally within that realm. And today, I'm going to veer off a little bit, but I am so excited about this video. I have not been able to wait to be able to do this for you because these vehicles that I grew up with, basically some things I've known all my life, I really owe to my lifelong passion for loving slot cars as much as I do. And I would go as far as to say that without these Matchbox vehicles from the 50s all the way through the end of the 60s, I might not have known and fallen in love with slot cars. Maybe it would have happened anyway, but I could tell you my passion was fueled with these cars from as early as I can remember. Now, I grew up in late 1963 and grew up in a middle class family. My dad would go to work, and we had one car. He would take the car to work. My mom would be a housewife, as was the case in a lot of families back then. She would make sure, the family was fed and the clothes were clean and all those chores were done. And my dad would get home and we'd have a happy middle class life. So I came along in 63 and I didn't start school till about 69. So my mom needed to go shopping, and when I was born, she didn't let that stop her from what she had to do. She would take me along, and I was always fine with it because I didn't know any better. And my first few months of life were shopping with her. And if you don't know my mom, she's a wonderful, wonderful lady. But there's one flaw in my mind that she's always had, is that she lives in slow motion. Everything is slow motion. And when she goes shopping, if she says she's going shopping, it's not shopping like I'm going to run to the store and come back. No, it's all day shopping, and it's checking every single item in every single store. And she wants to get the best deals. That's great. She wants to be thorough. That's great. So I can't fault her with that. But just being the tag along kid, I quickly learned that made me miserable. When I was 2 years old, my mom told me when I was 2 years old, I began to revolt. I would resist going shopping. When she would say, "Okay, Dennis, we have to go shopping," I knew what that entailed. I knew that we would be leaving early in the morning. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and her favorite place to shop would be in Jamaica, Queens. And I knew we'd be taking the JQ line to the end of the line and to the Jamaica, Queens district for her shopping day. And it would be hours and hours and hours of shopping in slow motion. And so when I began to resist that, somehow, some way, she discovered that Matchbox cars were the things to settle me down. And just the promise of a Matchbox car would be all it took to calm me down and to make me agreeable to spend the entire time shopping, the entire day. For a 2 or 3 year old, I was happy if I had my Matchbox car. That's how much I love these cars. That's how much these cars have always meant to me. So she discovered that, and that was great for her, and it was great for me, and that worked. And I would say after a couple of years, I even began to realize that, hey, I have a good negotiating stance here. She needs to go shopping, and she needs me to be with her. She doesn't want to leave me with a babysitter or anything. And my older brother, was in school already, so he couldn't watch me. So she needed to do the shopping, and she needed to take me. So I would negotiate, and I got her to go to 2 cars every time. So I was up to 2 cars, and I probably even pushed that envelope even more, but I guess that's as far as I was able to go. And it's funny because I was talking to a friend about that recently, and he's a big avid reader, and he's always been a big reader all his life. And he had the same story with him and his mom going to Jamaica, Queens, and but only for him it was a book. He would hold out for a book, so she would buy him a book, and he could read that book all day long. And you would think, okay, the book is more appropriate because you could spend a long time reading a book. What are you going to do with a Matchbox car? Push it around a little bit and then you get bored? I never got bored. I don't remember getting bored. I can have fun all day with my Matchbox car. And so that's the history of it for me. And so I grew up with these, and every day every time we went to the store, I'd pick out a new car or two or however many it was, and I would just enjoy them and love them. And without those setting the seeds for slot cars, I might not have ever fallen in love and been a big enthusiast as I am today for slot cars, and have been since the early 70s. And I put some out here from different makes and models and different scales throughout the years, just to show. I know there's a lot of Matchbox enthusiasts that are probably going to watch this video, and I hope I do this justice for Matchbox people, because I love this so much, and there's nothing I want to do more than to make everyone proud of what I'm trying to do to help out the hobby, for both hobbies, for both Matchbox and slot cars. And it would be wonderful if some of the slot car people can say, oh, I see these Matchbox cars. I never knew they existed, and I love these too. These are great. I'm going to go get some of these Matchbox cars. And vice versa with the Matchbox people seeing the slot cars and saying, wow. Now, I included here some HO scale slot cars in the first row, and these are HO scale. Now, a lot of people from slot cars that have HO scales complain a little bit that the scales vary a little wildly in the actual size of the cars. Some are a little too big, some are too small, but generally they're there, and that's always been fine with me. If you're one of those slot car people that believe that the scales are a little off, you're going to crack up on the scales of the Matchbox cars, because even though most of them fit in these boxes, and I'm going to put together this box here so you can see the size differential of all these cars. They're not like 1/64 scale slot cars. They vary anywhere from 1/50th to 1/100th of a scale, maybe even less than that. But yeah, you'll see the difference in sizes. And you'll also notice, if you're a slot car enthusiast, that there's some nice Matchbox cars that have been made over the years. This is a series that started in '53. I'm just really going to feature the 1/75 scale series, as it's now called, that went to 1969 in the regular wheels version. And it carried on beyond that, but then it became super fast wheels, which I had stopped collecting at that time because I was in school. I started school in '69. But so that's what happened there. So I really want to feature the 1/75 series from '53 to '69, and you're going to see there's some Matchbox cars in there that you would say, oh, I didn't know they made a Matchbox car. I love that as a slot car. One of the Thunderjets, the Aurora Thunderjets in the '60s. That's the ice cream truck, if you're not familiar with it, from Aurora, a nice Thunderjet. Now, you would say, wow, I wish they would have made that in a slot car in some of these cases that you would see these Matchbox cars. Some of these Matchbox cars should have been made and have yet to have been made in a slot car form. And it would be great if somebody picked up on that and ran with it and created some more slot cars from this era of Matchbox, being that these were made in the '60s for the most part, in '50s and '60s, when these vehicles were actually on the road and the track. So when you're seeing a Ferrari racing car in Matchbox, know that was on the track, and this was in Matchbox form when that was on the track, not 50 years later they're producing it. No, this these cars were made as those cars were on the road and on the track. And that's what I love about them. A lot about them is that they're very, that time period is really well represented. And yeah, so let me get back to shopping with my mom. So now we would go shopping and I would be happy. And over time, I built up a huge collection of these cars, and they were very well loved, very well played with. If they were meant to haul imaginary dirt or rocks, you can betcha my Matchbox vehicles hauled real dirt and rock piles and mud and whatever I could sling in the back of those haulers and carry them from place to place and go from my house to my friend's house. And we had a ball with them, and we put them to work. A lot of these were foreign to me since they were made in the UK. And I grew up in the United States. I had never seen a lot of these things on the road. So seeing a lot of these were very, pardon the pun, but they were foreign because I'd never seen vehicles like this. They were very outside of what I would see on the streets of where I grew up. And so that piqued my interest as well. So so that really made my day. I loved these cars until I started school in about 69, and a lot of things happened around that time. Now, I started school, so my mom never had to really take me shopping with her anymore. She could drop me off at school in the morning and then make her merry way and shop all day long. As long as she came back to pick me up from school, I was none the wiser. And she didn't have to buy me any cars, and I didn't know any better. And I was happy with the massive collection of Matchbox vehicles that I had fun playing with, and other things that we were playing with at the time. I was into baseball cards and everything else at that time too. So this became one of the things that I used to love to play. But also at that time, another company started off with cars around this size, diecast cars, and that was, as you know, Hot Wheels. And they began to really sell a lot of Hot Wheels cars. And I noticed them for the first time when I went down into my friend's basement at that, where we lived in Brooklyn. A lot of the houses had unfinished basements. You would have your regular floor, your first floor, second floor, and there would be a basement. And a lot of people didn't have the money to finish them. And that was the case in my family. We just had an unfinished basement. It became a storage room. It became my play area where we would eventually set up slot car tracks and all my different toys and sports games and whatever we had down there, and play hockey and set up things. That came along in the late 60s, around 69 to 70. I went into my friend's basement, and he had this big, long orange track set up. Must have been about 30 feet. And he had it like suspended from on one end from like a ladder or something, way up almost to the ceiling. And I remember him having Hot Wheels cars that he just got, and he took a Hot Wheels car and he put it down that ramp of all these tracks, this straight long ramp of orange tracks, and that Hot Wheels car rolled as fast as the eye could see all the way to the end and even off of it. And I was like, wow. So I had my Matchbox vehicles, and I took my Matchbox vehicle and I took it and put it on the ramp, and I rolled it, and it just tumbled down the ramp. And I said, oh, okay, all right, something must be wrong. I tried it again. Nope, something's wrong. So I got another car. Same thing happened. The Matchbox cars could not handle that. And I remember being so disappointed. And that was kind of the end of that era for me. I was content, though. I didn't need to have the Hot Wheels cars. I had my Hot Wheels friend that he would let me play with his cars, and I was fine with that. But I still always loved my Matchbox vehicles. And so I'm thrilled to be able to do this series. And now this is going to be for the 1 to 75 series from 1953 to 69. And I've spent a few years amassing this collection. Much of this is not what I played with as a kid. The ones I played with are probably If I still have them, there's no paint left on them at all. They're completely destroyed and not worth showing. I want to have a nice representation of each of the models that I have in my collection. So those do not cut it for me. I don't need to have mint condition on what I collect. Same thing with slot cars. I'd like to have it as mint as possible without having to pay a fortune. So there's a fine line there on what I like to collect. I'm the same way with the Matchbox vehicles, is that as long as it's very, very nice, it doesn't have to be perfect. If there's a little nick or little tiny chip, it's fine. I'm not gonna avoid something and deny myself the pleasure of having in my collection and displaying here, because it's not exactly perfect. But you'll see in a lot of the cases, they're very, very nice condition. You would call it, I guess, near mint in a lot of the cases, and a lot of the cases mint. But as long as it's in that form, I'm happy, and I'm happy to present them to you. Let's see. I'm hoping I can do both of the enthusiasts for both Matchbox and slot cars. I hope I can do you both justice. It would be great for me if I got comments. I would love to get comments from slot car people saying, "Oh, I did not know these Matchbox vehicles existed," or "I've seen them, but Mom, now that you've shown them, I'm really into that. I would love to have some of those." I would love to hear comments, and please do drop a comment and let me know how you think I'm doing about this. Am I presenting them in a good light? And by the same token, if you're a Matchbox enthusiast and if you see slot cars that you like here, and if that might pique your interest, you could check out my other videos and check out other people's slot car videos. There's a lot of videos out there on slot cars, and a lot of them do a great job, much more so than I can do. So check out some slot car videos, and I think you'll be happy and really excited on what you see. And that would be my ultimate goal, is to combine both of these to get new fans for both of them. And because if not for these Matchbox, I don't know if I would have ever fallen in love with slot cars. These really planted the seed for me, and maybe I would have fallen in love anyway. I mean, from how I've always felt about them, that probably would have happened anyway. But without the Matchbox cars, that really, really planted the seed. Now, before I get started, now I'm trying not to talk through much, but I just want to give you enough of an intro to this. I'm going to go through all of the 1 through 75, one at a time. We'll go number by number. Now, when a number was first introduced in 1953, I think they only started with about 3 different models, the 1, 2, and 3. Now, Matchbox would eventually, as the years went on, they would replace certain numbers, certain models in each number. Let's say the number 1, collectors today call that the 1A, the first version. They call that the A version in any number of the 1 through 75. So whenever the A was finished with their production run, either, I don't know why, maybe probably be through sales. They probably tracked their sales, and if something wasn't selling, or if they felt it's run its course, they would replace it with what is now known as the B model. So say the 1B model would come out, and that would last a year or 2 or 3 or 4. And before that was replaced by a C model, and so on. And in most cases, it never got more than to the E, the 5th different model replacement. And in a lot of cases, there were only 2 or 3 or 4. And so you'll see as we go along why those are numbered, the A, B, C, D. And I'm going to explain to you in each model what they were. And if I don't have a model, it's because I'm almost done. This is a collection in progress. It's been years of collecting, and I always like to wait to find the right one. And I don't want something that's beat up and has a whole bunch of chips just so I could show you. I'd rather not even have the model, and I could just describe it here in this video. I'd rather much do that than to show, real beat up models and say this is this car. I don't want to do it that injustice. I want to give everyone a good look at something that's in its nice state. Whether it's not mint, it's near mint, which is fine, although there's some that could be mint here. Most of them you'll see are near mint, and it makes me happy to present them to you, and I hope it makes you happy to enjoy them. And I don't ask for likes. I'm not that kind of a channel where I need your likes. I'd much rather have that happen organically. If you like a video, you like it. If you're happy with it, like it. If you're not happy, you move on or whatever. That's fine. I'm basically here to just promote the hobby, not myself, not my channel. I really just want to promote slot cars, and in this case, Matchbox vehicles, and just get that exposure out there and show how much I love this, that other people can love this just as much, and try to get the enjoyment out of it. And that's my chief goal. But about the likes, this is a new area for me, and I'm still unsure of how I'm doing. I want to do Matchbox vehicles justice. I don't want to do an injustice. So if you can please comment and tell me how I'm doing, if I could do something differently. If you like it, please like it if it's anything that you do like. And if you want me to continue, I'm probably going to only do the first few models here, and this will be a small series of the Matchbox. Don't have no fear, slot car people. If you enjoy my slot car videos, I will get back to them. But the next few videos are probably going to be for Matchbox. Maybe it might be 2 in the series, or as many as 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. It depends on how quickly I can get through them without talking too much. And I promise most of the time after this, it won't be me just running my mouth about everything. It'll be me showing you the cars. Once I get started into this, we're going to start rolling. Okay, so I promise that. So if you're watching it in real time in 2025, this is April 2025, you can bookmark, hit the bell notification, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification. You'll get notified when I do subsequent videos, and this way you'll be notified on when they're available. I'll try to get them all done in a relatively quick period of time here. I don't want to let this drag too far. And then I will get back to we'll get back to slot car videos, and maybe I might, if it's very popular, I might get back to some Matchbox, and we'll see. So that's where it's important. If you do leave comments and likes on this video, and if I see that feedback and it's very positive, that I really think that the community really enjoys this, then I might do more Matchbox in the future. And of course, mix in with a majority of slot car videos. If you're watching this in the future, long after this series has been completed, I will be putting this into a playlist. So you can run through the entire playlist on how many videos this is. This is the part 1, and there'll be 2, 3, I don't know how many, maybe 5 or 6, maybe just 2. Maybe my second video, I'll finish up all the rest of the 75. But that's yet to be seen. But you'll know in the future what you're facing, and you can watch them at your leisure. So with that being said, let's get to it. We'll start. I'm going to start by placing cars in front as we go of this Matchbox, which this is half the story of the Matchbox. It's Matchbox, and this is the vehicle. So I'm not very much into the Matchbox collecting, the box itself. The ones I had as a kid, I probably ripped open right from the start and just threw it away. It had no interest to me. And that's probably why they're so valuable these days, is because a lot of people probably didn't know the value, didn't have value in it. They just opened it up. Some of them were, keen to putting them back in and storing them nicely and displaying them in the box or on top of the box. I was never like that. Mine were meant to be played with and rolled and collecting garbage and whatever. But the boxes got thrown away, so that makes them very rare and valuable to have in really nice shape. So that's half the story. But I'm not going to be speaking about that because I don't collect them. I inadvertently have a nice collection of these now because as you get as you purchase some of these cars, they do come with the boxes. In a lot of cases, they're original. Some cases, they're reproductions. So if that's the case, that's the case. I fold them up and store them away for whoever's going to inherit my collection. They could do as they please with these. If it helps them make a sale or if they enjoy having the box, that's fine. But I've got notes on everything. And that's one thing, whether you have slot cars or Matchbox vehicles, to keep good detailed notes on what you've done, what you've had incoming, the conditions, the special notes that you have on each particular vehicle, and that goes a long way. Sometimes you don't know. Life is short. Life is sudden. That one day you're here, the next day you're not. I hate to make this like this, turn it into that, but you want to be prepared, and you want your heirs to be informed to the best they can, so they can, if they need to make some money on a sale, you can help them out the best they can, and to keep the integrity of each of the vehicles. If there's been some work done to them, you note that, and this way that gets passed along with those notes. And if everybody did that, the world would be a much better place, and everything would be fair. In my case, with the cars, I try to collect original cars, not restorations. There are some people out there who are excellent at restoring, and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference if not having that eye. And there's a lot of people who do have that particular eye for spotting a restoration. I don't have that eye. I rely on the people I purchased these from over the years. I purchased the overwhelming majority from people who do deal in a lot of the Matchbox cars, in most cases solely in Matchbox, to where they know what they're talking about. They'll break down the conditions, and if there are restorations, they note it in the sale, in the listing. So I always stayed clear if that was noted. Reproduction box, I don't care about. That's fine. You can kind of generally spot what's a newer reproduction box and one that goes back to the 60s. It's very difficult in a lot of cases to spot this. So if there are any Matchbox enthusiasts that are watching it and you're an expert at this stuff and you spot something, and if you know for sure that this, or if you have a really strong suspicion that what I'm showing is a reproduction in any way, let me know, and I'll make note of it. In most cases, I'll probably say, okay, but I'm still happy with it, because although I love to go after the originals, if it's known at a later time that there is a reproduction in here, or maybe more, hopefully not, but it's not gonna be devastating to me. I'll still be happy. I love my near mint to mint, and if so be it, if something snuck in here, in a lot of cases for the restorations, it's not an evil thing that somebody's restored. A lot of people do it as a hobby. They just enjoy it with their time to make a nice restoration and bring these models back to life, and to really enjoy them the way they originally were. If they come up on a model that's been played with, like mine were all. So there's no evil intentions to try to make a sale on something that shouldn't be. But say a lot of people have restorations in their collection, and they don't keep notes, and that's why it's important to keep notes. Is if you make restorations and say something happens to you, now whoever's inheriting your cars, they have no idea, is this a restoration, is this the original? They might not even know what that means. Now they go to sell it, and unwittingly they look up the the value of the car, the history of the sales, and they say, oh, something like this, we sold for $40, so I'm going to put a $40 price tag on it, and that's all I know. It's not a restoration. I have no knowledge of that, and it gets sold to somebody who now thinks that they have the original non-restored version of something, and so on down the line. So I'm sure that has happened probably many times throughout history. And hopefully, if you go to collect, you can collect from a reputable source, and there's a history listed on what they are, or someone who was an expert on spotting these. That goes a long way. So with that being said, let's get into it, and then you won't have to hear me chattering so much about all these things. We're going to get into the number one. We're going to start, and these were what I have of the number ones. Now, I don't need to, I'm the same way with slot cars. I don't need to collect the very minute variations, and that's a big thing with Matchbox collectors. They love to collect the variations, and a lot of slot cars collectors too. There's slot cars that have minor variations, and those are some of the variations are more valuable because they're more rare. So the same thing exists with the Matchbox cars. Now, for me, I just like to have a good representation of a model. If it's something that has been done in, say, 4 versions, if I have one version, as long as it's kind of similar to the others, I'm happy with that. I don't need to get every variation. Now, come back to me in 15 years and you'll see I'll do videos. Oh, here's every version of this one ever done. And here there's, this one because he's got a green hat on, and, but as of now, I'm not like that. I don't think I'm ever going to be like that at this stage. I am like that in one particular form, in one particular slot car brand, and I'm not going to give away any more than that, but that's going to be a future in this series on my channel. It's going to be a future video series, but I'm not going to talk anymore. That's a little hint for you. But so yeah, as long as I have one version, I don't need to collect them all, and I got my good representation. Now for the Matchbox 1, like I said, the first version of it is now called the A. That was the diesel road roller, and that came out in 1953. And that's when Matchbox first introduced their first 3 models. And they started from 3, and they built all the way up. By the time around 1960 came around, it was full 75, the 1 to 75 series, but it was only really 1 and 2 and 3, and they didn't have what they called A, but collectors today call it the A version. Is the diesel road roller, which is very very similar to this, and that came in a dark green or light green color. Now, that lasted for a couple of years, and that was replaced in 1955 by what is now called the 1B, which was the road roller, and that was in light green only. And that had a dark tan or a light tan driver. Those were the variations that came in. And that road roller was 2¼ inches in length. And the rollers on that were red metal rollers, and they had crimped axles. And what happened with Matchbox cars, the earlier versions in the 50s all had pretty much the metal wheels, and parents discovered quickly that when their kids would roll those cars over the furniture, back then everybody had that wooden furniture, and it would scar up the furniture, scrape up, and they wound up with lines from the Matchbox, from the metal wheels, and they got hold of Matchbox and held them by the collar and said, "You better do away with these metal wheels because they're scraping up and ruining our furniture." So Matchbox obliged. So they eventually transitioned from the metal wheels to the gray plastic or silver plastic, and then black plastic wheels. So by the time the late 60s came along, they were at the black plastic wheels in many of their cases. And they eventually became the super fast wheels. That transition in 69 to super fast wheels, which that lost me. I don't have any of that. And that's where this is going to end, at the super fast stages. So now that was the 1B, and that went from 55 to 57. Then they, in 1958 through 61, it was still a road roller, and the rollers were still red metal, but it went from a variable from a light green or a dark green version, once again, as in the 1A. And that became not a 2¼ inch, it was a 2 3/8 of an inch. So just a little bit larger was that road roller. So just that little variation. Now, if you're a collector, you would collect the first version, the A, the B, the C. You would get the light green, the dark green, the slightly larger version of it. So if you have that, that's great. That's fantastic if you love collecting all that. But like I mentioned, I just want one of each variation that's budget friendly, to have one. Now this is the D version of it, and that road roller became the Evelyn Barfield road roller, and it's 3 inches in length. And that this only came in this green. And what happened there was that the rollers turned into plastic rollers and no longer metal. And that was introduced in 1962, and that went through 1967. So that was all the road rollers in the first number of the 1 to 75 series, although it's, like I said, 1 to 3 in the first few years. After that, then the E version came out, and this was the first major change in the ones. And this became no longer a road roller. It was the Mercedes-Benz Lorry. And it came in this mint green color, and it had a little canopy. And the canopy could have been either orange, like in this case, or yellow. And this was fascinating to me. I remember having this and stuffing it with dirt and rocks and whatever, and carry it around to the work site on my front lawn or my backyard or my friends' yards. And we had a great time with these. A lot of these, my friends might have had the same models, but that was okay because they were all workers, and they all had the same job to do, as to haul whatever they were hauling from one side of the yard to the other. And we could play all day with these. So that one went from 67 to 69, and that had the black plastic wheels, as you can see here. And so that, after 69, I'm not going to get into the super fast, so we're going to end there, and that's the ones. And now let's get into the twos. For the twos, we had the Muir Hill dumper, which I don't have the first 2 iterations, the A or the B, but I do have the C, and this is the Muir Hill dumper. It also was in a variation with it was called the Liang dumper, and these were red with the green bed. Now the first 2 were the Muir Hill dumpers. They were green with the red dump body, so the exact opposite version of this. And those came with metal wheels. The 2A was from 53 to 56, and that was 1 5/8 of an inch long, and that came with metal wheels with crimped axles. And then in 57, they came out with the Muir Hill dumper, the B version, and that was the 1 7/8 of an inch, so slightly larger. So as you can see, as in the first number, the model number 2 got a little bit larger, just slightly, but it was also green with a red dump body, and it had unpainted metal or gray plastic wheels. That's in its course of being the number 2B model. Then what this is, there's the 2C, the third iteration of the Muir Hill dumper. And this came with the black plastic wheels only. So if, as you're watching, you could decide what you like. Let me know in the comments what's your favorite number as we go along. Which of the numbers do you like, or which model in each number is your favorite, or just which is your favorite Matchbox vehicle of all that I'm showing? Let me know. I'd be really happy to know that, and if you could share that, I would love that. And so that's the Muir Hill dumper. Now, that became, in 1967, the same time as the number one became the Mercedes-Benz Lorry, this became the Mercedes trailer with the removable canopy. Okay? And that one had the orange or yellow canopy as well. So the versions I have here are the orange versions, but you could have had a mixture of either or, an orange or yellow. And you could see a lot of the Matchbox vehicles have the tow hooks. A lot of them came with tow hooks. And in many cases, even sports cars came with tow hooks, which was outrageous, but they have tow hooks. So it's one of those oddities with Matchbox cars. But the tow hooks worked really well. You could hook on and have a nice train going with these and get your work site done with whatever you're doing. If you collected a few of these, you can have a lot of things going at your work site, in your pretend work site in your yard. And these provided hours and hours of fun. So that's what happened there. They both changed. The 1 and the 2 changed from the original version and became that new Mercedes version. Now let's go to the 3s. The 3s, this is one of the most interesting models because this is a cement mixer. This was the 3A, the cement mixer. And it's not really a vehicle. And you could see, and one of the fine things, the most enjoyable things about Matchbox cars, and probably what I love slot cars about, is they move, they do things. They're just not, they're stationary to where they're just there to look at. They do things. Some of them have doors that open, some of them have trunks that open, hoods that open, wheels that turn. In this case, the cement mixer, which is so unique and so interesting, for even through all the Matchbox cars and all the Matchbox vehicles, the cement mixer. Now this was the 3A, which is now called A, I should say. And this debuted in 1953 and went all the way to 1960. That's how popular this must have been. And this had orange metal or gray plastic wheels. And this one obviously has the orange metal wheels. So this lasted quite a number of years. And but then in 1961, they changed out that cement mixer into the Bedford 7.5 ton tipper truck. And this actually tipped. A lot of the dump trucks that they had, the tipper trucks, would tip. So you could put loads in them and it would spill out the loads, and much like a Tyco US1 would do. And you can go back and forwards on this and whatever, and dump and really have a lot of fun with these. And like I had mentioned, mine were worn out. They were so scarred, and the paint was probably all just obliterated just from having fun. But that's kind of the way it should be. But now as an adult, I like to have a nice, colorful, beautiful representation of it. And this way I could show you. And so this one, actually the tipper came in two variations. If you're into variations, it came in red or maroon. And the axles were either fine or knobby, and they were either gray plastic or black plastic wheels. And you can see this has the black plastic. And that ran from 61 to 67. So like the cement mixer ran about 7 years, this ran a nice 6 or 7 years. I'm gonna get a drink of water. I'm sorry I'm talking so much. All right. Now, something completely different. The 3 became the Mercedes-Benz, the Benz ambulance. And this ran from 67 to 69. Excuse me. And it had black plastic wheels. And this one was fascinating because the tailgate opens. And let's see if I can open that. Can I do it? Can I do it? I am so sorry. There we go. The tailgate opens for this ambulance, and guess what's in there? But a patient on a stretcher. A patient on a stretcher. Now, this was fascinating. You could take that patient out, and say if there was an accident, you can have your accident cars at the scene and then load up the patient in the Mercedes-Benz ambulance and close that back latch there and jet them off to the hospital. And that patient, by the way, I know is a reproduction. A lot of cases you might not find that original patient in the stretcher. There's a lot of Matchbox cars that came with extra little pieces like animals and stuff, and in many cases they're missing because they're not, the main core of the car, and it's easy to lose those pieces, those little pieces. So in a lot of cases you'll see reproductions, and in a lot of cases in my collection you'll see the originals. So it depends. Now this one came in an off-white or cream. And this was the 3C, and this took it all the way to the end of the regular wheels era in 1969, from 67 to 69. So those were the 3. Those were the first 3. Okay, now we'll go to the 4. And this one I don't have. This is the Massey Harris Tractor. Okay, was the 4A, and that ran from 54 to 56. Now this is the Fortune tractor, and this was actually the number 72. So this is going to be featured later on in the series. And what I do is, if there's something very similar, I don't collect it, like I said. So I don't have the Massey Harris tractor because it's pretty similar to this. Maybe at some point in the future I'll pick up one of those. Now that Massey Harris tractor came without fenders, and it was all red, okay? And it had metal wheels with crimped axles, and that ran from 54 to 56. Now, this in 54, Matchbox expanded to 7 models. Now they had their original 3, but in 54 they went to 7 models. So we're going to investigate those 7. So the Massey Harris tractor in 56 changed to a version, same Massey Harris tractor, but with fenders. And it was red, and it had metal or gray plastic wheels, and they had crimped or rounded axles. They started transitioning their crimped axles into rounded axles along the way towards the late 50s. So that's what the Massey Harris tractor was, very similar to this. At some point I will collect one. There's very few that I don't have to show you in this whole 1 to 75 series. So this is one of them that it's similar to the Fortune tractor. You'll see this later on in the future as we get to 72. Now in 57 to 59 was that tractor with the fenders. Then in 60 they came out with the 4C version, which was the Triumph motorcycle and sidecar, which came in this beautiful blue color and beautiful sidecar. And this was the 4C, and the tires were black plastic on it. And this ran to 1966. And this was a nice little sidecar that they made. Then after that, they came out with something a little different. After that 6-year run, they came out with the 4D, which was the Dodge stake truck. And that was yellow. And the stakes on the stake truck were either green or blue. And the blue was a little more rare. And just like slot cars, Matchbox cars, the more rare they are, the more valuable they are, and hence the more difficult to collect, which I don't need to collect. Like I had mentioned, I don't need to collect the more rare ones. It's not, I just want a nice representative of it. So the green one it's fine. This is what the stake truck is and was, and it's fine. It came with black plastic wheels, and this ran from 67 to the end of the era, the regular wheels era in 1969. So that was the stake truck. Now we'll go to the 5. Now this one is in itself, the London Routemaster bus pretty much ran the entire course from 54 all the way through 69, and probably then some, past into the 70s, and they're still making Matchbox cars. I'm not sure how long it ran, but this must have been wildly popular because this existed the entire length. They never changed it from the Routemaster bus. Although there were minor changes, minor adjustments, minor variations to it along the way. So this was the third variation. So the 5A was the Routemaster bus. It was 2 inches long. Okay, I'm sorry if I forgot to put others up here. If I need to show you something, just leave a comment and I'll include a photo or something, or a follow-up video of something I've missed, because I tend to miss things. So just bear with me. I'm trying my best, and I'm trying to do a good job at this. So the Routemaster bus was 2 inches long, and it was red, and it had by Matchbox series decals on it. And that came with metal or gray plastic wheels with crimped axles. And that ran from 54 to 56. But then in 57 through 60, they released the 5B version, also the Routemaster bus. But instead of 2 inches, it was 2¼ inches, just like those previous models. They gained a little bit, and it's 2¼ inches, also red. But this time it had either the decals were by Matchbox series, or Players Please, or Viscostatic decals on it, and it had metal or gray plastic wheels with crimped or rounded axles as it began transitioning into the 60s era. And so that leads us to the C version, the 5C, the London Routemaster bus again in red. And now instead of 2¼ inch, it's 2 9/16 of an inch. So a little bit more than 2½. So this is getting larger as we speak. And this ran from 61 to 64. And the decals on this were the BP Viscostatic, or Players Please, or Drink Pear Drax, or Baron of Beef. And it came with gray plastic or black plastic wheels with rounded axles. And so that was the C version. And then that was transitioned to the 5D in 1965, which ran all the way through 69. The London Routemaster bus in red, 2 3/4 inches, so even larger. So this bus is just growing. And also had the decals of the BP Viscostatic, Players Please, Drink Pear Drax, and Baron of Beef or Baron of Beef stickers, and only came with black plastic wheels. So that's the story of the number 5. Probably one of the most unique out of the 1 to 75 is that it never changed. It was always the Routemaster bus, but always a slight variation as it went on and actually grew. And now let's go up to the 6, which is the quarry truck, the quarry dump truck, which began life in 1954 and went through 56. This is the B version of it. The first version had a gray dump body and had metal or gray plastic wheels with crimped axles, and it was 2 1/8 inch long. Now the B version, which is this one, was the Euclid quarry dump truck, which was 2 1/2 inches long, and it had the 2 rear axles. The 1 rear axle, and it had the Euclid decals, and it had gray plastic wheels or black plastic wheels with crimped or rounded axles. and that's the Euclid Quarry dump truck. And then that was followed by the C, which was also a Euclid Quarry dump truck in yellow. It ran from 64 to 67, and it had 2 rear axles, and it had no decals, and the rear wheels were either solid or recessed, and it had black plastic wheels on it, and followed by an entirely different vehicle in the number 6 series, is the 6D, ran 68 through 69, which was the Ford pickup truck. And this had a removable canopy. And can I remove it? I don't want to force it. There we go. Ford pickup truck with the removable canopy. And it had the white canopy. The grille on these could have been either silver or white, and that's the variation that this came in. And it had black plastic wheels, and that was the end of the 6s. Okay, now let's get to the 7s. 7 began life as this is one of the most unique, along with the cement mixer. I believe this is one of my favorites, was the horse-drawn pasteurized milk float. And this ran from 54 to 60. And this was in orange with the brown horse. The bottles, the variation in the bottles that you see there were silver, orange, or white. And they came with metal or gray plastic wheels. And this is a very, very lovely, unique model, the milk float. The horse-drawn pasteurized milk float. And that was the 7A from 54 to 60. And they went in a completely different direction with the 7B. After that was the Ford Anglia, this light blue, beautiful Ford Anglia. And you may note this as being the Harry Potter car, or something similar, very similar to this. The Harry Potter car, the Ford Anglia. And this ran from 61 to 65. This was the 7B, and it came with either fine or knobby axles. It had silver plastic, gray plastic, or black plastic wheels, which you could see here, the black plastic wheels and the tow hook on it. So yeah, this is the Anglia, and a beautiful car, which was a vast difference to the first of the 7s, the milk float. Then a completely different change, the 7C. After that Anglia, they made that 7C, they assigned this, the Ford Refuge truck. And this ran from 66 to 69. I'm just going to say 69 because that's the end of the regular wheels before it became into the super fast era. Now this collector box tips, and this always fascinated. This is one of my favorites as a kid. Just that whole motion was very unique to me and fascinating to me on how that would do that, and still fascinates me to this day. And so I love this truck. This is one of my favorites. If I had to pick a handful of cars from my childhood, this would have made the list. And this was orange with the gray dumper, and it came with black plastic wheels. And so that's the number 7 version of the 1 to 75 series. Well, let's get to the 8s. I'm probably going to cut this a little short here. Probably go, say, till about 12. Not 12 o'clock, but the model number 12 series. And we'll stop there, and we'll continue it. So if you want to bookmark this, hit that bell notifications, and you'll get notified when I make the follow-up video or videos to this. And we'll keep going from there. So let's get to the 8. Now, in 1955, before that Matchbox series, the 1 to 75 was actually only those 7 models, but in 1955 they expanded to 13 models. So this is the the Caterpillar tractor, which is this actual one I'm holding, is the C version, the 8C version, because in 1958, 55 to 58, the Caterpillar tractor was 1.5 inches, and it was in orange or light yellow, and the driver was orange, red, or yellow, and it had metal rollers with crimped axles. Okay, so that was a 1.5 inch version. Then in 59 to 60, they dropped that one in favor of the Caterpillar tractor, pretty much the same thing. The B version was only in yellow and only with a yellow rider. And that had metal rollers with crimped axles. And that brings us to the C version, which is this one, which is the Caterpillar tractor, and it was 1 7/8 of an inch. So again, these are getting larger as we go. And this one was only yellow and only a yellow rider, but the rollers were metal, silver plastic, or black plastic. So that was the story of the Caterpillar tractor. So, and then that was ended with something completely different, as Matchbox seems to be doing. It's becoming a theme where they just indiscriminately assign numbers to something that's had the number assigned the whole time. They changed it up in 1967 from all those Caterpillar tractors. They made this Ford Mustang Fastback, which slot car enthusiasts would love this one. This one is probably a favorite with a lot of slot car people because the Mustang Fastback is a very popular slot car. And this ran from 67 to 69. And this was white with the red interior or orange with the red interior. And the tires were black plastic tires. And the great feature about this, very unique feature to this car, is that it had steerable wheels. You see that little notch there? You take that notch and you could steer the wheels with that. So this became a favorite in what it can do. Very unique version of a Matchbox vehicle. Very, very nice, and just a beautiful, lovely car. And I'm going to say many times that's one of my favorites, but this is one of my favorites. All right, so that was the number 8 series in the series. Now let's get to the number 9. And in 1955 to 56, they introduced the Dennis fire engine or fire escape. And very similar to this was the B version. Now in the earlier models, you'll see the pattern here, if you haven't noticed it already, that the models were just enlarging slightly of the same model, and they would assign it the second letter, A, B, even though at the time they didn't call it that. But that's all the changes that were done, and later on they just became completely different cars altogether throughout the series. But in these earlier models, you'll see the Dennis Fire Escape was 2.25 inches, and it was red, and it had no front bumper. And it had metal or gray plastic wheels with crimped axles. And then in 1957 to 58, just that year or two, it became the B version, which was the Dennis, which that whole something, my name being Dennis, name of my channel, the Slot Car Den, holds something near and dear to me. It's the Dennis Fire Escape, Dennis Fire Engine, and it became a little larger, 2 3/8 of an inch. And it was red, and it has this gold bumper, and it had metal or gray plastic wheels with crimped axles, and a very, very nicely done car, but very, very small. And this is one example of what I was saying about how tiny these cars are in some cases. They're not one consistent scale. They are all over the board, 1/50th to 1/100th of scale. And so that was the Dennis Fire Escape. Then it stuck with the theme of the fire engine, and it became the 9C from 1959 to 66, a nice long run. It turned into the Merriweather Marquis Series 3 fire engine in red, And that latter had variations of gold, tan, or silver. And you see this beautiful gold on this. And this was fine or knobby, and it was axles, and it was gray plastic or black plastic. And those axles were crimped or rounded. Usually they started as crimped, and later on, as they went, they became rounded axles. So yeah, and this was much larger than the previous Dennis Fire Escape, which you could see the size difference in these two. So yeah, and then for something different, it turned into a boat and trailer. And this one, I think probably everybody had this. And I had about 2 or 3 of these. And I used to play in my bathtub. You know, we had bathtubs back then. Many of us did. And we would take our boats in there. And I would love bringing my boats in when I would have to take a bath, and would help, I would spend time in the bathtub until I was all pruny. My fingers were all pruny, but I had a lot of fun playing with a lot of the boats that I had in different form. And this boat and trailer was the 9D, and it ran from 67 to 69. And it came with the deck was blue or teal, excuse me, and the hull was white, and the trailer was this blue. And this came with black plastic wheels. Excuse me. So that was the first boat in the series. Well, there were other boats, so we'll see which ones came first. So that was the 9s. Now let's get into the 10s. Yeah, I think I will stop at 12 when it comes to these. The 10A, which this is the B version of it. The 10A ran from 1955 to 1957, was the mechanical horse and trailer in 2 3/8 of an inch. It had the gray trailer and the red cab. And it was kind of tiny, as you could see. The mechanical horse and trailer. And it had metal wheels, so crimped axles. And then it became this B version, which I'm holding, is the 10B. It ran from 58 to 60. And again, it became a little larger from that A version. It was 2 15/16, so nearly 3 inches. It had the red cab and a light tan or dark tan trailer. Okay, so the trailer has a little variations for you collectors who like to collect different variations. And it came in metal or gray plastic, crimped or rounded axles. So that was a nice little truck, very tiny version of the truck. And there you go, just enough to fit in that box, maybe pushed together a little bit. And that was an interesting truck. And so that was the 10B. And then it became, sorry, I'm talking too much. That's what happens. That's my warning, not to talk too much, Dennis. The 10C, which was now the sugar container truck, the Tate and Lyle sugar container truck. And this was the 10C, ran from 61 to 65, and it was blue and yellow, as you can see here. And it either had a crown decal in the back, like that, or no crown, which this does not have a crown. And that is the variations that came in, and that came with fine or knobby axles with gray plastic, silver plastic, and then later on the black plastic wheels. So, as they progressed through the decade, you could see if you have the black plastic, it was probably towards the end of its run. And this is a nice truck. I love this truck. The Tate and Lyle sugar container truck. And that was the 10C. Then that leads us to the last, which was the pipe truck. The 10D ran from 66 to 69. And this has removable pipes, which this was a nice feature. You can stack up these pipes, load them on. Something else that you had can dump this off somewhere, and this truck would come pick them up, and you can load them on, and you could see it'd be a pain in the neck to keep them all on. and people probably lost their original ones. Um, but a lot of people held on to these. If they collected them and just put them on their shelves, they probably still have the original pipes that go with these. And the pipes were gray, and the grill came in either silver or white on that. And that came in black plastic wheels as it came towards the end of the 60s. And that was the 10. All right, now we're making our way through here. Almost done with this first in the series. The 11, which was the ERF petrol tanker. And this one is very, very tiny, as you could see. And this is actually the B version of it. The A version is 2 inches, and it came in green, butterscotch, yellow, or red. And it may or may not have had ESO decals on it. That was the A version. And it had metal wheels with crimped axles. Then that ran from 55 to 57. In 58 through 64, this is the B version. And this was the ESO ERF petrol tanker. And this was in red, and the trim was either gold or silver on this. And it had the ESO decals. And this had metal or gray plastic or silver plastic or black plastic, crimped or rounded axles. So a lot of variations in this tiny little truck. Tiny but adorable and fascinating, just like all the others. The size does not matter. Even the smallest ones are fascinating and beautiful and just so unique in their own right to make them so enjoyable. And let's get to the 11C, which ran from 65 to 66, was the Taylor Jumbo Crane with an operating boom. Now, this was the version which was yellow with the red weight box, okay? There was also a version which was just all yellow, and it had the red hook. This is the C version, which ran from 67 to 68. The first version that was all yellow ran from 65 to 66. So this one with the red weight box ran a little bit after that, and the hook was either red, like this one, or yellow. And and the tires on that were black plastic on both of those versions, whether it was all yellow or with the yellow with the red. So that was the Taylor Jumbo Crane, which is, I don't know how they got that in that box. I guess maybe it had a slightly elongated box, or if there was a way to put it at an angle, they somehow got it in there. Yeah, maybe they got it in there somehow. I'm not sure how that worked. Maybe somebody can leave a comment on how some of these boxes worked. It seems like the ones I've always seen were always the same size. I know they made different sizes. There were actually different series of Matchbox vehicles. There was the king size, which they were larger, like a 1/43rd scale size in Matchbox cars. And they had different, they had military series and air series and C series, and the yesteryear series, which were like the early 1920s cars, which I had a couple of those. They were larger. I wasn't too fond of them. I did have a couple of them in my collection, and people probably love to collect them. But like I said, I'm keeping this to the regular wheels 1 to 75 series. If this is popular, I might do follow-ups on that. So yeah, if you want to make this popular, like, subscribe, hit the bell, and we'll keep going as far as it takes us. If nobody cares, nobody watches, doesn't get any views or any likes, I'm fine with that. I go back to slot cars and we're good. But I needed to get this out of my system, so thank you for watching. So now we get to the 11D version, and this was introduced in 1969, just before the super fast transition started happening. This was the scaffold truck, the Builder Supply Company scaffold truck. And this came in silver with the yellow scaffolding and in black plastic wheels. And this was all the scaffolding. can all be hauled around inside of that truck. And it's hard for me to see behind the camera, putting all that back in here. But that was the scaffolding truck, which is a very, very nicely done truck. Very, very nicely done. And I hope you enjoy that. And let's get to the final one. The Land Rover Jeep series ran from 55 to 59. And this was the tiniest one. This was the 12A. It came in olive green with a little driver, metal wheels with crimped axles. And that was the tiniest little Matchbox car, but no less special than any of the others. And then it became, it got a little larger. This is 1 3/4. It became 2 1/4 in olive green with no driver. It was slightly larger and a little bit different with fine or knobby gray plastic or black plastic. And then it became the Land Rover Safari, the 12C, 65 to 66 in green with brown luggage, black plastic wheels, which then turned into, in 1967 to 69, the Land Rover Safari, the same kind of thing, but in blue with orange or brown luggage and the black plastic wheels. And just to round things off, this was an original one that I was very upset at the time. I had this, I loved it, one of my favorite models. The luggage on the top spins, and my dog Lady got a hold of this and tore it apart, and I was so upset. But now I cherish it because it's a memento of my favorite dog ever. And I love Lady, and she left her mark literally on my Matchbox vehicle, and I'll always cherish this. So thank you for watching. I will continue this, and look for follow-up videos. Please like and subscribe and comment all you want. I really look forward to that. I'm so happy to bring this finally series and bring this into the light. And let me know what you think. If you think I'm doing a terrible job, I'll stop. If nobody cares, I'll stop. But I hope you enjoy it. And I'm enjoying myself doing this anyway. So have a great day, and thank you for all your time. And I'll make the other ones a lot less talk and more action. Take care. Bye.